here to say an obligation of Mary Winchester.
Okay. Hello, and welcome back to Super Hell, aka the Mystery Spotcast, a show where two recovering Supernatural fans subject themselves to a rewatch. And stay with me here, folks, so no one else ever has to watch Supernatural again. Stay with me on this, guys. My name is Ollie. I use any pronouns, and you can find me on social media at OllieFresh. That's fresh with a PH.
And my name is Klaudia. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on social media at Klaudia Says, K-A-L-U-D-I-A Says. Now,
first and foremost, spoilers for the Winchesters.
Yeah, so
we're gonna talk about the Winchesters in the second half of this episode, but I would be remiss not to lead with the energy that this has created.
If you don't follow us on TikTok or any other social media platform, or you've been living under a rock, something happened on the Winchesters that made us go, shit, we don't have an episode this week. What am I gonna do? And we were waiting to watch the next episode. It was so dark, and
it made us want to watch the show. It was to watch Supernatural, because it recontextualizes Supernatural.
We'll get to it, but
yeah.
Earlier we've said about the Winchester, we were like, this is so hateful that we have to talk about this and that we'd like this, and that is the energy we're going into this with today. But however, we are almost to the end of season 2, which is such a big ass season, and so we had to keep trucking. So we will be talking about one episode of Supernatural in season 2 today.
I think here's the thing, just so you guys know. If you don't want to listen to our coverage of the Winchesters, if you're skipping through that, whatever, that's your choice. So fair, I get it. Because I know we talk about it in kind of a non-linear way, we talk about Supernatural, so I understand if it's not quite your bag. Just after we finish this first episode, stay for just a little bit, because we're going to talk about, you're going to hear us collectively lose our minds. And yeah, I'm going to tell a story. I'm promising now. I'm going to tell a story about what happened and how we reacted. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But without further ado,
I feel like we have a lot of moments like that, when we've talked about our November 5th stories. This was it was up there.
It was November 5th light in the way that it wasn't it was nowhere near that level of mania, but it was not far off. It was pretty far off, but it was definitely in the same vein, the same emotion.
When we found out that Destiel was canon in the Spanish dub, and it was re-emerging that emotion, it was that.
Exactly.
And it was oh, I haven't smoked this particular strain in a while.
So if you wanna know what we're talking about, you're gonna have to stay until the second half of this episode.
I feel like we're honey trapping people. So today we're going to talk about a iconic episode of Supernatural in general, which is Folsom Prison Blues. If you were on Tumblr in its heyday in the Super Hulag era, you have seen a GIF. There are multiple from this episode. I didn't even remember the plot of this episode that much. We will also be talking about, just a quick content warning, we'll be talking about prison, because this does occur. Actually, it occurs in a jail. It is pre-trial detention. It is not prison. But they kind of mix that up a little bit in this very inaccurate episode. So we're going to be talking about prison, the prison industrial complex, solitary confinement, shit like that. It's kind of crazy. And also brief mentions of John Winchester. Very... I got that. It's a trigger warning.
Trigger warning, John Winchester.
So this episode is extremely iconic. The Dean Winchester's, Blue Steel is from this episode. We've covered a couple episodes like this, the kind of episodes where it's they're doing a special little plan, and it only gets revealed after a while. So let's get into it. And we are also in the end game of season 2. So this is right before the shit is about to hit the fan. So we open on some maintenance workers in the dingy hallway of a prison cell block that's under construction. Now it looks like they used a set from from a haunted asylum, not a current in 2007 prison. But basically they're like, oh, this block was closed for years and now it's being reopened and we're doing renovations. And then basically these maintenance workers, they go into one of these cells, and they're like, something's off in here, and they hear this like weird noise. It's like cold, it's very dark, there's all these things, and they get attacked by something. We don't know what. Bum bum bum.
Oh my god, I was so scared. I was screaming, crying, throwing up. That's a joke. I don't know why I just said that in like such a mean way.
Does it kill one of them or does it kill a guard?
It kills a guard in a little bit.
It kills a guard later.
Well, it kills a guard. I don't remember if that was still in
Oh wait, it doesn't kill one of them. They just see that something's
see
off,
it's
and then
fucked
it
up,
shows, and then it shows later another cell block. I'm sorry, this episode is not is iconic, but it's very not well written.
No, that is something I will say. I was watching this episode, I was like, God, this episode fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But I was also like, girl, this episode is so bad, it's not, I don't give a fuck about what happens.
Yeah, okay. I think it's because Jensen is kind of, he's slaying and he's giving a performance in this episode, and he's carrying in this episode. So, I think this is where he started to learn, oh shit, I'm gonna have to hold this on my back. And then he took that all the way to 2023. Am I right, no. Winchester State?
He said, God damn it, if I have to, no one else will do this if I don't.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
He literally is. He's like if Thanos was right.
That is the feeling of watching the Winchester. Okay, we have to get back. Okay, so basically, they're looking in this fucked up cell, and I think one of them makes a comment being like, damn, I wouldn't want to be in here. And I was like, all right, commentary about solitary confinement, damn. And we cut to another cell block. It's like later at night, and there's this man, and there's one of the incarcerated people, he's like reading a book on his bunk, and he suddenly like hears a noise, and he hears like electricity like flickering, as ghosts normally do on Supernatural, whatever. And he sees it, and he like looks through the like hole in his door, whatever, and he's like, there's something off. So he starts to try to like wave at the camera from the like bars of his door, and he's like, guard, there's somebody here, whatever. The guard who's watching on the other side is like, oh, fine. He's like, fine, I'll go handle this. He goes there, and he's like really brusque with him, whatever, and he's like, just go to sleep. And all the other incarcerated, I'm not saying inmates, because fuck that. All of the other people in the prison are like, shut up, like whatever. So clearly this man has been doing this almost every night. And
yeah, he's like, come on, Randall, go back to bed.
He's like, crazy Randall, whatever. And Randall's like, no, I saw something. Like, there's something here. And he's like, Randall, go back to bed. And he's being an asshole. He walks away, and he like hears something behind him, and he's like, and he's walking out of the cell block. He's like opening the door to the cell block, and something unseen attacks him. And he's like choking, and then he dies. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's like screaming for real.
Yeah,
he's like losing his mind. He's very scared, clearly.
Yeah, and it's not bloody or anything. He's just like, it's like he's being like fucking strangled or something. We can't see. So we cut to 3 months later, and we have Sam and Dean. They're breaking into a museum of, what was it?
Yeah,
Mesoamerican.
It was a weird. It was basically like if someone on the set, like who was doing like set design, Googled museum and just took the first couple pictures from Google Images and put stuff in there.
Yeah, so they're breaking into a museum, and it looks like that they're looking for something, and they're just kind of like walking around with flashlights picking shit up. And immediately a bunch of guards and police come, whatever, and are like, hands on your head, whatever, and they're like, oh, you got us, whatever.
Another important thing is, like, as they're walking in, Sam goes, I hate this plan.
And yeah.
Dean is like, hee hee, yeah, you said that already. And it also, like, during this sequence, it shows a bunch of, like, motion sensors going off and, like, doing their little, like, dee-dee, like, clicking sound. So, yeah.
So we cut to the infamous Blue Steel scene. They are being taken into custody. We have them taking their little mug shots. You've definitely seen those gifs on Tumblr. Dean is hamming it up. He is having the time of his life. You're like, girl, there's something wrong with you.
No, he is like in his natural environment here.
Yeah,
It's deeply troubling.
And to be fair, Sam does point that out at one point. Dean is treating this like it is a major motion picture, and Sam is like, "Girl, we are in jail." And that is a line he actually says. He's like, "I don't know if you've noticed, Dean, but we're in jail."
No, it's literally, Sam is like, look at my fucking brother, man. My ass is going to prison for real.
Sam's like, "I went to Stanford. What the fuck?"
No, for someone who is gonna go to law school, Sam knows a shockingly little amount of what you're supposed to do when you get arrested.
He only really mentions that like one time, and I think the information is incorrect. So, now we cut to them being questioned, and the people who are questioning them are FBI agents, because if you remember, we've mentioned a couple times, these men are wanted and they have escaped several times. So we are now back into like Supernatural's like trying to be a crime procedural era, which means that like people from another genre of show are now interacting with Sam and Dean, and it's very odd. It's a very odd mix. So we have FBI agent Henriksen, who we've seen before in the bank heist episode.
Oh my god, Special Agent Henriksen.
Hey.
He's hilarious to me. Honestly, I feel like I stan him in a camp way.
Oh yeah.
Like, in a way that like I'm not standing him because like I like him, because like he's a cop, he's an FBI agent, girl, like whatever.
Get it together.
But I just think he's funny.
He's just like Will Graham for real.
Shut up. Do not compare this man to Will Graham. Do not do that. Do not bring up Will Graham right now. I can't do this. You're done.
It is 2013 Tumblr and this Chili's.
We're having there's an issue going on this podcast right now.
Listen, the
energy is weird.
Listen, on Tumblr this week, we had the stuff with the Winchesters, and then we had Cecil Sweep. There's a Welcome to Night Vale resurgence. I've been seeing Voltron and Merlin on my For You page on TikTok nonstop. Like, it's back. It's here. And
Homestuck was trending. Like, guys.
I mean, we've been talking about Sans Undertale because he was up against Cecil in Tumblr Sexy Man poll. Like, there's a lot of things here. If you don't know any of the words we are saying right now, I am so fucking sorry.
I'm sorry. It'll be over soon. It'll be over soon.
It will not be over soon. We're gonna get so much worse.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you are listening to a Supernatural podcast, so that's kind of on you. We're focusing so much of our energy on like watching Supernatural and bringing you that information. You can't expect us to brief you on everything. I'm so sorry. God bless.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I have to watch Supernatural today. And my partner was like, okay, but you brought that on yourself. And I was like, don't fucking remind me.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll say it now on the record. This podcast was Claudia's idea.
No, it was Ollie made the joke. Ollie said, haha, what if we made a podcast? And I said, okay, but what if we did really? So it really was Ollie's idea.
Okay, well, this is unfair. This is entrapment. This is conjecture. There's no
Sam's
evidence.
Defender in here.
I need a lawyer. Podcast over.
Anyways, yeah, people really need to appreciate that the work we're doing here. I stopped watching The Untamed to watch Supernatural and talk about it with you guys today. So, anyways, yeah, I'm on the Yee City arc. If anybody of you know what I'm talking about, that shit is so. Anyways, to watch a crappier episode of Supernatural, even though this is one of Jensen's best performances, to be fair.
No, this is, I will say, sorry, I know we keep like interjecting. Jensen is acting his fucking pussy off. Like, he is serving so hard, and the episode is just like not very good.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard because it's like, I'm very much enjoying watching him. He's a very good like facial actor.
Yeah.
So like, you're watching him do a lot of stuff, and then he opens his mouth, and the line is so fucking stupid.
To be fair, that could describe the entire series.
You know what? You're actually so right.
We could just end this podcast because that's it right there. And I would say that even though I don't like Jared, it's the same for him as well.
Yeah. So, sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes men
They can
act. They can be good at things sometimes. Hate to
Yeah.
break it to everyone.
It's pretty awful. So anyways, so yeah, our sly little friend, FBI agent Hendrickson, is like, I followed you guys. You really have a rap sheet. He's like, I got you now, bitch. And he's like, here's all the things you've done. He's like, oh, like the small things, like credit card fraud and mail fraud and all these things. And like, oh, what about the other things? What about murder? What about whatever? And Dean's just like, tee, that's so true, King. And I'm like, shut up, your lawyer isn't here, you dumbass.
No, Dean is literally going like, aw.
He's like,
so
that's
true.
That's so funny.
That's hilarious. Literally when he walks in, he's like, oh, great, you're here. Do you think I could get a cheeseburger? And Agent Hendrickson starts like saying all of the crimes that Dean is on. He's like, okay, maybe we can hold it back on the cheeseburger. Then I get ya.
Like, Dean, you're so, I think this is when he started to become people's baby girl, because this is a very baby girl episode for him. If you don't understand what makes a man a baby girl, yeah, I watched this episode.
It's just vibes.
It's just vibes. Yeah. So he's talking about all this shit, whatever, and then this woman walks in and she's like, hi, I'm his public defender. He will not be answering these questions at this time. Shut the fuck up. And at this point, I'm like, and they always do this in like cop procedurals where they get the person to talk, and then the public defender walks in and is like, and of course it's a part of propaganda to be like, oh yeah, the public defender is trying to stop them from finding justice. There's such a, and I'm like, oh yeah,
fuck
this person,
fuck due process.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is dark. And Dean is like, who are you? I'm like, girl, I know your brother's the one who went to law school, but who do you think?
Listen, with the amount, here's the thing. I'm so constantly like, it's so hard to gauge Dean Winchester, because sometimes I'm like, it makes sense because he obviously did not do like a real formal education in the way you really should. So it would make sense for him not to quite know what a public defender is. But then I think about the fact that the amount of references to television he makes
knows,
and to like sitcoms
exactly.
and like procedurals that he makes, there's no way he doesn't know what a public defender is.
Yeah.
And there's no way he doesn't know you need to wait for your lawyer.
Yeah, and he makes all kinds of, well, that's because he only watches propaganda where they don't say things like, shut the fuck up, don't speak until your lawyer is here. He's brain poisoned by American media, much like most of the populace. Anyway, so she walks in and she's kind of suspicious of like all of these crimes. She's like, there's something off here. I think before she comes in, he's like, okay, so, and they're like, you're gonna go to this jail, because we couldn't get you a trial date until this day, whatever. And he's like, it's this specific one, right? And they're like, yeah, like, why do you care, whatever? He's like, okay, cool. At this point, you're like, oh, clearly this was planned. But it's also crazy because it's like, you really trust the American justice system to put you in the very specific, correct jail? I mean, I guess there are some places that are whatever, but again, we're talking a lot about pretrial detention right now, aren't we? So
the Bill of Rights means nothing to them.
Yeah. So then we cut to Sam and Dean talking to their public defender, and she's like, you guys, you've been accused of a lot of things, and in multiple states, so now there are multiple extradition orders against you. And they're like, shit, okay, so how much time do we have in the jail? And she's like max 7 days, which is not an accurate representation considering that people spend lifetimes in pretrial detention. And she's like, oh yeah, and you're like at no chance of bail. And they're like, good. And she's like, what the fuck? And they're like, but we're both going here, right? I think it's funny that they're like, oh yeah, we get to go together like little besties. And I don't know if that's realistic or not, but and she's like, okay. So we cut to them. Finally, they are going to jail. And Dean is, again, he is having way too much fun with this. You're like, girl, you are in jail.
There's something very sick and twisted about Dean being so excited to be somewhere where he's constantly surrounded by men.
We can't go down this road. No, but I do actually think it's less of a gay thing, and it is more of a, I do think it is more of an autism thing.
Yeah, his special interest is prison.
No, he likes structure.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Structure, a social hierarchy he can understand from movies and TV shows.
Yeah, no, what you said makes way more sense than what I said.
Because Sam is like, how do you know all this shit, whatever, and he's like, and he's like, and he's also, of course, the whole time he's making references to certain movies, whatever, because as we know, this man is a cinephile from the PA, from his time as a PA.
If there's one thing about Dean Winchester, it's that he's gonna make a stupid little reference.
And he's gonna reference a film that has come out before he was even born sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, that's something about the Supernatural writers. They cannot fucking resist a reference. Like, gun to their head if you said, like, to anyone who's written on this show, gun to their head, if you said, like, don't make a reference or I'm gonna shoot you, I feel like they would be like, oh my god,
yeah,
make a reference.
But it has to be a reference from, like, before the year 1990.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, unless it's the one time they watched the Clone Wars.
Oh my god.
Anyways, we can't get off track here. So he's in prison, whatever. They get in a fight of course, in the cafeteria. And you know that the TikTok sound from Zoolander that's like, excuse me, brah, you're excused. It's literally that. It's, like, so stereotypical. And basically, Sam, like, somebody bumps into Sam on purpose, and Sam's like, hey, sorry, oops, whatever, and Dean's like, I want to have a fight because that's what people do in movies, and you're like, girl, stop.
He literally just starts, like, starting shit with this man for no reason. Like, you're like Sam runs into this guy and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then Dean's like, the guy kind of, like, looks at Sam and Dean's like, he said he was sorry. What?
Yeah.
You want to start shit with me? And the guy's like, okay, well, yes, I do.
And you're like, okay. He's like, the fuck is wrong with this man? So they, of course, they immediately land themselves in solitary. Didn't know that we'd be having a commentary on solitary confinement. There's a little thing about,
honestly, not very good commentary on solitary confinement, because, like, the representation, when they say, like, okay, because Dean and this guy, they fight, and then the guard comes over, or the warden, I think it's the warden, he comes over and is like, I'm putting you guys in solitary confinement. To them, solitary confinement is just two rooms that are next to each other. Like, they can talk to each other. I'm like, that's not what solitary confinement is, guys.
Yeah.
The point is that it's solitary. It's not two rooms next to each other with windows where they can see and talk to each other.
Yeah, the point is that it is a human rights violation.
Period.
Yeah.
Not the point in Supernatural.
Hashtag close Rikers.
Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah, Dean Winchester, why don't you spend a little less time watching movies about prison escapes and a little more time trying to close Rikers? Anyway,
why hasn't Dean Winchester done something about Rikers yet?
Not clickbait. So Dean is in solitary and he can, like, talk to the guy he was fighting with, and he's, like, trying to make banter. It's not working, whatever. And then suddenly, like,
a bit of banter.
And basically he blows cold air and he's like, oh shit, there's a ghost here. Fuck. And basically he witnesses this supernatural killer. It attacks the prisoner he was talking to. And I feel like this is a moment that Dean doesn't get to have a lot, where, like, he is completely helpless. He cannot help this man. He cannot do anything.
Yeah, he literally, like, we see Dean and it's like, he kind of looks around, like, he can sense something's off, and then we see his breath and he's like, oh fuck, like, something's happening. And he's like, hey man, stay still, stay calm, like, trying to talk this guy through it. And this guy's obviously like, girl, fuck you. And Dean is, like, just in his cell, like, well, shit.
Yeah. And he has, like, he hears this man, like, choke out to death, and he's like, huh? The fuck? And basically it's like somebody with, like, blood red eyes, like, appears in the little slit and, like, kills this man, and you don't know why. And he's like, the fuck? We cut to, I don't know if it's the next day, I don't know if it's whatever. Also, the whole thing of, like, oh damn, he immediately went into solitary, whatever. When we find out some certain things later, then it realizes that it was orchestrated. At some point, they do mention that they are on this mission to help one of their dad's friends that he was in Nam with. His name is Deacon, and Sam's like, this is really risky, like, for somebody that, like, we don't know and whatever. And he's like, we got to do what we got to do. Like, they were in the service together, whatever. And I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Like, what is he doing for him? That kind of thing. And that he knows what ghosts are. Like, what's going on here? And they don't really mention why. And so he's out of solitary confinement, and they're, like, in the yard. And Dean is, like, he is playing poker against people. He is winning. He has a ton of cigarettes. We have mentioned whether or not Dean smokes before on this podcast, by the way. And apparently someone let us know on Tumblr that he was originally supposed to be a smoker, but they took it out. So there's a fun fact for you. I'm glad they didn't, because
I feel like Dean Winchester strikes me as the kind of person who watched like a Dare ad.
Yeah.
And like got really, really, or like got really, really scared of cigarettes. He was like, he's saying shit like, no man, like I don't smoke that. That fucks up your lungs. And then is like, but I'm gonna drink myself to death.
Yeah.
Like, is gonna do something like, he's like, I don't know, man. Cigarettes are really dangerous. And then we'll do something extremely fucking dangerous and be like, what? It's not a big deal.
He's like, you know what? It's not as bad as cancer. You're like, shit.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, okay, weirdo. I'm not advocating for smoking. I think smoking is bad. I'll put that on the record.
Ollie being canceled, not clickbait.
What else is fucking new?
Yeah. So he wins all these cigarettes, and Sam is like, you don't smoke, whatever. And Dean's like, oh, this is the currency in here, obviously. And Sam's like, girl, what the fuck? We then cut to Sam is cleaning with this guy. And Sam does his little, I'm going to just talk to you and get some information out of you rigmarole. And we realize this is the guy who was in his cell and saw the guard being killed, or at least heard the guard being killed, and who nobody believed.
Oh my god, Randall Nation.
Randall Nation. And it seems like he's been there for a while, whatever, and you're like, wow, an indictment of pretrial jailing, because how long has this man been there? But he does mention later he's been in and out a couple times, so he might just have had several stays in this jail. So he basically is like, yeah, so there was this killer, his name was Mark Moody, and he was killed in the old cell block that they actually just reopened.
That's basically it. That's basically the conversation.
And then Sam is like, hey, I heard you were the one who saw the killing, whatever. And he was like, yeah, but no one would believe me. Shit was crazy, whatever. And Sam does the whole, like, I believe you kind of deal, whatever. And that's how he finds out this killer. So they're like, okay, so we need to, like, his body, we don't know where that is, whatever. But there's obviously something, his body is obviously not here, but there's obviously something keeping him in this prison. We have to find what it is. And they're like, I don't know what it's going to be. So they think, like, maybe it's traces of blood. Now, that's crazy to me, because there are plenty of instances in previous episodes where traces of blood would be left somewhere. And, like, they've now established that traces of blood can keep a spirit there. It's not an object.
To be
or
fair,
even a piece of hair.
To be fair, that when they said that, it did kind of sound like they were spitballing. Like, they were kind of like...
It ended up being right.
Yeah.
Like... I mean, actually, we don't really know if it was right.
I don't think it wasn't
right. No. But they should know whether that's right or not. Anyway, it's very stupid. And they're like, okay, so we have to get into that cell in the old cell block and, like, burn whatever has his blood on it. And so, like, okay, we need a plan. And he's like, okay, but how are we gonna burn it? Like, we don't have anything. And Dean's like, that's fine. I have the currency. And that's when he trades cigarettes for lighter fluid.
Dean is kind of engaging in, like, he's creating an economy.
Yeah, well,
he's learning about capitalism.
Not learning about capitalism.
No, if Dean got out of here and quit hunting and said, I'm gonna get really into stocks, I think he could do it.
No, I don't think he could.
I hate to say it. I think if Dean Winchester was born, like, 10 years later, he would have been really into crypto.
Don't say that. Don't say that to me. No, don't do this. Anyways, so he's like, okay, we have salt from the meals, and, like, we're gonna trade for that, and then, I have lighter fluid. So he's like, okay. So then they're in the cafeteria, I think. Not sure. He picks a fight with this guy named Tiny. And he says these, like, awful things to him about his weight and food and stuff. You're like, Dean, this is really awful. But he's clearly trying to pick a fight with him. And he starts a whole brawl. And he's getting his ass beat by this guy. And Sam slips away. And, like, I don't know. Ezra Bridger style goes into the vents.
No, literally.
I'm like, this man is 7 feet tall.
No, literally, he's like a modern day giant. He's climbing around in these prison vents that surely the prison must have said, we must reinforce the vents so people don't try to fucking climb through them. Like, what the why is that possible?
Yeah, I guess it's because it's an old building. I don't know.
Maybe it's because the writing isn't very
yeah,
good.
it's the TikTok sound, he's in the walls. He's in the walls.
Yo, imagine like you're just like hanging out and Jared Padalecki comes out of your fucking vent.
I think I'd kill myself.
No, I would also have to do that as well. I would be just out of fear, out of a reaction.
So yeah, we see Sam Winchester's gigantic body jump out of this giant vent, and he's like, okay, he's in the old cell block, and he's like, all right, I'm using the lighter fluid, whatever, and he burns this like bedding, but that had the blood on it in the cell, and he's like, all right, this should work.
Also, the fact that they still have that,
it's very odd and weird.
Guys, when there's blood on something, I'm pretty sure that's like a biohazard and they throw it away. And listen, I think that there is a commentary to be had about how prisons often cut corners in ways that are far from humane. However, I don't know if like the one it was just a little weird.
I'm like, with the way that our country incarcerates people, you would think that they would need that space. Instead, they were like, oh, we have a whole abandoned wing. Like, this is the fucking castle from Beauty and the Beast. Like, what the fuck? Anyway.
Sorry, you can tell how we feel about this episode.
And here's the thing. It's such an iconic episode, so I don't want to, like, be a hater. But it's much like this show. Love-hate relationship.
No, because I feel like some of the most iconic episodes of Supernatural are the worst ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, we have Dean and the guy he was trying to beat up, Tiny, and they were brought to the infirmary. And they're recovering from their wounds, whatever, and they're kind of separate. And Dean's like, hey, I'm really sorry for the stuff I said back there. I had to kind of incite a fight for reasons that I cannot tell you. And he had said some stuff about his self-esteem. And this guy, Tiny's like, oh, actually, like, I do have some self-esteem issues. And they're having like a man-to-man chat. And Dean's like, sorry for being fat phobic. I'm not actually like that girl.
This is also the way that this is one of the healthiest, like one of a very healthy male conversation that Dean is having. Probably like one of the healthiest with someone who is not like
his
Sam
friend
and Bobby.
Or Castiel.
Like, yeah, no, literally. Like, Castiel's not appeared yet. I mean, yet as of now in this show.
As of now, we need to start our Castiel countdown because it's almost time. I think
I almost want it to be like a spoiler for the listeners for when you guys don't know Cass is coming. We're just gonna jump scare you with Cass.
I mean, the people who know, they know.
The girls who get it.
Yeah, and be like, ah, I could have dropped my croissant. Anyways, so they're having their like very nice little conversation, and suddenly Dean, there's this like ghost of this weird fucked up looking nurse who shows up and then comes through the bars of his thing and starts attacking him, and he's like and he's like choking to death, whatever, and he's like, oh my god. He reaches, for some reason he still has the like tray of his food, and he reaches for the salt on the tray. I was like, wow, I didn't know that you got your own salt shaker when you got your food in the infirmary in prison, but okay. In jail, sorry. And he uses the salt, and and she disperses, and then he's like having trouble breathing, and it's like he has like the symptoms of a heart attack. And you're like, and a thing I should have mentioned earlier was that when they said like, how did all these guys die, the guy Randall that they talked to, he was like, oh well, they all said it was heart attacks, and they had this whole conversation of like, you know, if you angered the wrong people, you ended up dead from a heart attack, whatever. And you were like, damn, okay. It's a corrupt, fucked up place. And he's like, we all know it's not actually heart attacks, whatever. And Dean is like, he's like, why am I having a heart attack? What the fuck? And then he hears that the ghost is now attacking Tiny on the other side. And he's like, oh my god. Once again, he cannot help him, and Tiny dies. And he's like, oh, shit.
Tiny! No!
Tiny, no! That's my Glipshido.
When someone asks who my favorite Supernatural character is, I'm like, obviously it's Tiny.
they're like, okay, that thing that didn't work. Now there's this woman. The fuck? So they're like, all right, well, ask Randall again. And they start to bribe him and with cigarettes, whatever. And he's like, yeah, so this wasn't when I was here, but like I've been in and out a couple times. But basically I only met her once, but there was this nurse. She really had it out for people. She works in the infirmary, whatever. And her name was Nurse Glockner. And she used to kill prisoners in the infirmary. People used to say that if you went there, you wouldn't come back. And she later killed herself during a riot. And everyone's like, girl, what? And they start to get worried because they're like, oh, shit, like Deacon's coming to like pick us up. They clearly have a plan to get out of jail.
Reminder, Deacon is their dad's friend who has sent them on this mission.
And they're like, we don't have many more days. Like, we have to figure this out. So he cut to Dean with his lawyer. And he's like, hey, Queen, so can you find out all the information you can about this nurse? Her name is Nurse Glockner. Where was she buried? Anything about her? Blah, blah, blah. And his lawyer's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm here to help you. And he's like, this is what's going to help me. I promise this is what's going to help me. And she's like, girl, what the fuck? And he's like, are you going to help me? And she's like, she doesn't say yes or she doesn't say no. Also, there are several scenes of Mara, right? Her name is Mara. The public defender talking to the FBI agent. Now, the prosecution and the defense speaking to each other, and even the judge, is pretty normal. Speaking to the agent on the case,
and also speaking to the agent, and also like giving him your opinion as the public defender.
Yeah,
really weird.
I was like, she needs to be disbarred because she starts to have all these things of being like, there's something off about this, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's trying to investigate it herself. And she's
Which,
like,
as you do as a public defender, like that is part of your job, but not like, because there's a scene where like she goes in to talk to him and she's like, hey, I just wanted to talk about some of these like charges that you're bringing against, like some of these charges that you're talking about, because like, you know, there's this charge, but like we talked to the person there and she swears up and down that they saved her life. And then Henriksen is like, yeah, but she's crazy because she won't tell us what they saved her from. Like,
and yeah, and it's all very unprofessional and very unrealistic. And you're like, wait, what the fuck?
No, she's just like, but she's just like, yeah, I mean, I just don't think they're 100% guilty. I think you're looking in the wrong places. I'm like, this is such a weird conversation for a lawyer to be having about like, and not necessarily, she's not talking about necessarily privileged information, but it is like, she does that later, don't worry.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just so strange.
It's very odd and weird. You're like, what?
Like, what are you doing?
This would never fly out even on Law and Order.
And also, there's another thing, too, where Henriksen kind of tells her like, well, you know what, why don't you, like, I'm trying to catch like actual killers here, so why don't you go back to like amateur hour, your little public defender moment, I am gonna do this myself, like, you're like, whatever. And he like talks down to her, is very dismissive, and it really does evoke the trope of cool white woman gets talked down to by a mean black man.
Yeah,
and it's very much evoking,
it's very
that
bad
trope. And I'm like, okay, you're trying to make a statement about sexism, but you're also like making it like the trope that you're employing is historically racist. So it's also just an interesting little.
Yeah, and combine that with the fact that he is a cop. You're like, Jesus, there's so much occurring here. It's a Supernatural. I don't expect anything better, but Jesus Christ on a cracker.
No.
At some point also, they do have a conversation. I don't know when Dean and Sam have this conversation. And maybe it's later, but maybe they're kind of like, hey, like, we need to leave, whatever. And Dean's like, we can't leave. We haven't gotten the ghost yet. And Sam's like, okay, well, I mean, they are cons, whatever. And Dean has this little abolitionist moment where you're like, okay, slay. Where he's like, okay, I mean, they might be cons, but they are people. We can't just like leave this ghost in here to keep murdering people.
Yeah, he does say, there's a line, Dean's like, yeah, they're killing innocent people. And Sam's like, innocent. And
innocent,
Dean's like,
yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe they have committed crimes, but that doesn't mean they deserve to die. And I'm like, okay, Dean is so against capital punishment. I love that for him.
I was like, all right, pop off. I think, you know, ironically, because this show has no central philosophy, but like it does kind of go with the central philosophy of like, And there are a lot of shows that deal with this, and they deal with, like, Christian heaven and hell and shit like that, of, like, freeing us from these systems or whatever. And I was like, and
Mm-hmm.
he's very much about, like, freeing us from the idea of fate and freeing us from, like, I mean, he goes to the ultimate prison himself. Spoiler alert, he does go to hell. That was a time where prison was not fun for him. And sorry, I'm thinking about Dean in hell now. Anyway, but yeah, it just kind of goes like with the ideas of some accidentally, once again, this is Supernatural, it is by accident, of the show of like, oh, well, we need to like break free of these systems and kind of not do that. And you're like, all right, a minute slay. So basically they're like, oh shit, okay, well, we need to find out where she's buried and like we need this information. And Sam's even like, are you sure that did she give it to you? And he's like, no, but we can only hope. And Sam's like,
she being the lawyer.
And Sam's like, what? Like, we're about to leave. Like, what are we gonna do? And basically then Dean is like, I'm gonna stay in the prison until we get the information and we can finish the job. And Sam's like, girl, no, we cannot do that. And then they start beating the shit out of each other. And the guards drag them away, and they drag them into, like, a room. I don't know if it's, like, the kitchen or whatever. And the warden is there, and some of the guards are there. And the warden is like, okay, you guys can go. I'll handle this. And you're like, oh, he's about to do something illegal. And then he turns to them, and he's like, we really got him, boys. And they're like, thanks, Deacon. Surprise! Deacon was the warden the whole time. And you're like, oh.
Which is also, so to say, first of all, the amount of times they're like, yeah, this prison's so fucked up. I'm like, and your dad's friend is the fucking warden? Guys, like,
yeah.
The calls coming from inside the fucking house. Also, I was like, at this point, I started getting angry. Because I was having kind of a weird day, and I was like, I don't want to be watching this episode of Supernatural. But, I was having a weird moment. But I was like, why didn't Deacon just, like, let them in as visitors?
I guess because he knew that it happened on a certain cell block and they wouldn't be able to.
I know,
or even as agents.
He couldn't have like snuck them in or like figured a way to do it out. Like it's so funny to me that it was like he had to get the feds in on this too, because it's like obviously the feds were gonna show up. Like it's like I can't.
Yeah, and although there is a part where Dean is like, Sam's like, yeah, the feds came a little faster than I thought. And he was like, yeah, oops, sorry. I'm like, you guys are literally wanted in multiple states, you idiot.
This plan is so fucking bad, I can't even deal with it.
You do remember that Dean is 26.
I think he's 27 at this point.
Yeah,
He's 28 at this point.
No, he cannot be my age. This is not, no.
This is childish behavior.
No, this is fatherless behavior. Well, everything Dean does is motherless behavior, but
yeah.
Anyways, also the top popular pages on the Supernatural wiki right now are Castiel, Jack Klein, and God.
So true, the three genders.
And none of the actual Winchesters.
Period.
Where's Carlos? Anyway. I say that to myself a lot when I watch regular Supernatural, and I'm like, and what would Carlos be doing?
Yeah, if Carlos was here, he would have fixed this.
Carlos would have been like, girl, why don't we just walk in as FBI agents?
Yeah, Carlos would have stopped this. He would have been like, girl, this is a stupid-ass plan.
Watch them have an episode just like this.
Oh my god.
Because Jensen Ackles is producing it, and he's like, I like that episode. It was fun. So Deacon's like, all right, you guys figure it out. And Dean's like, no, actually, we did not. And I'm not really sure what we're going to do. And he's like, well, boys, actually, I had to give you something from your lawyer. And you're like, how fast did she get this information? And they're like, oh my God. Like, she actually came through for us and she got us the information. He's like, hopefully I can see you in better streets than this or whatever. And then he like looks at Dean and he's like, and Dean's like, so where do you want it? And he's like, okay. And then Dean like punches him in the face, like clearly to make it look like they fought. And then he like again opens the vents so that they can crawl out the vents. Yeah. And then they go outside and their car is just sitting there. Their very recognizable car is just sitting parked outside the jail. You're like, This is the worst escape plan I've ever heard.
No, literally, the fact that I'm willing to bet Deacon was like, I've been firing security guards over the last couple weeks just so that I can prepare for this. Like,
and Dean, you've seen enough, like, movies about jail. You wouldn't think maybe this is a bad plan anyways.
No, I can't. If we talk about the writing of this episode,
Yeah.
like the logic of it, I'm gonna start getting angry again.
So the alarms go off and they're like, oh shit, we gotta go. And Dean's like, we did it, Joe. And Sam's like, no, we did not do it, Joe. We gotta get out of here. It's actually quite funny.
No, Joe, we did not do it.
No, Joe. Me at Joe Biden every day. They run away and they're like, okay, it's at this cemetery. We gotta go burn her bones.
I'm sorry, Sam Winchester absolutely voted for Elizabeth Warren. Anyway, we can keep going.
I think he campaigned. You know that man was like, he was going door to door and he was like having an earnest conversation with every single person.
Yeah.
It's dark. He put an "I'm with her" sticker on the back of the Impala.
No, shut the fuck up, because he literally did is the thing. I fully believe that. He had it and he didn't take it off after the election. Like, he still has it on to this day, I think. Like,
Eileen's like, girl.
No, she's like, babe, I didn't vote. I voted for Bernie.
She's like, I actually refrained from the general election. That was good.
Not Eileen in her I can't vote for either. She's writing someone in. That's embarrassing.
If you don't know who Eileen is, we'll get there. Anyways, so they're like, okay, we gotta go. And then we cut to Henriksen, the FBI agent. He is questioning Deacon, the warden, and he's like, what do you mean they escaped? And he's like, yeah, they beat the shit out of me. And he's like, you let them get the jump on you? They're notoriously slippery. What the fuck?
Deacon is so funny too, because he's like, I'm sorry.
I think I know. I'm sorry. And then the public defender is there. And then we cut to, again, one of these fucked up little conversations with the public defender.
This pissed me off so fucking much. She needs to be fired from her job.
No, she needs to be disbarred.
Immediately.
If you are a lawyer and you listen to this podcast, God, I hope there are none. But if you are a lawyer or work in the criminal justice system in any way and have seen this episode, please let me know, because the things that occur in this episode, because Dean even says, like, oh, like, what if, you know, do you think that our lawyer will say anything, whatever? And like, what about lawyer-client privilege? And like, Sam, who went to law school, says this thing that doesn't make any sense, where he's like, well, yeah, it's not complete though, or something like that. And she might have to say something. They're like, oh shit, we better go fast, or something like that. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, it didn't make sense to me either.
And basically, the fucking FBI agent pressures their public defender into like telling them. He's like, so what did you say? And she's like, I can't say that. And he's like, yes, you can.
And then she's like, I guess I can. And tells him like what Dean asked her to look for and like the information on the nurse.
And he's like, and what cemetery is she buried in? Now. And so then
she fucking tells them. It's like, girl,
you're like,
that is that not privileged information?
It's very odd and strange. So we're cutting back and forth between the FBI, all these trucks, they're on their way to the cemetery.
I will add, there is something about clear and present danger. So like that's what they're talking about?
I don't know.
I mean, that is a caveat, but I also feel like the things, I don't know, it just felt very shaky. It felt like someone who had never heard of the law before was writing the episode. It was like,
baby, I know the law.
I think normally I would be a little bit more like understanding or more lenient, but I was already so angry because I was mad at how stupid this episode was.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not letting you off easily, girl.
Yeah, and people used to take gifts from this episode a lot. And I'm like, girlies, it's so... No. Anyways, so we're cutting back and forth between they're salting and burning the bones, they're digging up her body, and then we're cutting to the cars, they're coming to get them, whatever. And then we cut to Deacon. He is in the prison bathroom, and suddenly everything goes cold, and he is attacked by the ghost, and the ghost is about to beat his ass. And then back in the cemetery, the FBI have arrived. They're running, and then we see that the boys, they burn the body at the last second, and Deacon is saved, like right before he has a heart attack and fucking dies. And then we see Sam and Dean get back in the Impala, and Sam is like, man, you thought we were screwed before. We are so fucked. And Dean's like, yeah, we gotta go deep this time. And Sam's like, yeah, we're gonna have to go so deep, we'll have to go to, like, Yemen or something.
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
there's like,
he looks at Dean, he's like, do you want to go to Yemen? I'm like, well, yeah,
of
girl.
all the places. But also, terrible news about the U.S.'s presence in the Middle East. I don't know if you guys been, like, looking at the news lately or anything.
Especially considering this is, like, 2008.
Mission accomplished. It's about getting them.
No, because the tail end of the Bush administration, they were so busy hunting down Sam and Dean that they forgot to be, like, good.
They were like, oh, weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, Semen
Dan. Who's Semen Dan? Oh no, look out, here comes Semen Dan.
I can't believe that's the first time I fucked that up. I feel like I should have done that earlier. Anyways, yeah, they're WMDs. They're weapons of mass destruction. I mean, canonically, yeah, they are. They say that, and then we see, and I might be saying this out of order, and then we see that the agent and all his people are like, bro, what do you mean? This is the cemetery that she said, right? She clearly gave them the name of the wrong cemetery. And he's like, damn it. Those kids, they got out again. It's very Scooby-Doo-ish.
No, because here's the other thing too. Their defender has not only now, like, broken client privilege.
Yeah.
Like, she's
like
also
complicit.
She's also lied to law enforcement. So I'm like, girl, pick a fucking struggle. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm like, also, I said this before, I was like, this is a very big example of Winchester privilege, and that he just, like, turned on the smiles and convinced her to, like, break the law. Like, what's going on here? If they were not highly attractive white men, this would not be going this way. I mean, they wouldn't have done something this stupid. Actually, they did this because they have Winchester privilege.
Mm-hmm.
They were like,
that's the only way that this episode worked out. That's the only way I can justify this episode in my head without getting unreasonably mad.
Yeah, and it's not just, like, white man privilege, it's beyond that. It's whatever is added on to white man privilege that is Winchester privilege.
No, I said it. Chuck was working overtime for them in this episode. He was like, God damn it, you guys are so fucking stupid. Okay, we'll make it work.
Yeah. The fact that this is the episode before, like, the 3 episodes that make up the finale.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ on a cracker.
No, it's so dark. I'm like, girly, no, I don't mean to sound so negative. I didn't realize how much I didn't like this episode.
Yeah, I forgot.
Like, until rewatching it. Because I remember being like, oh, it's the prison episode, whatever. But now I'm like, God, that was so bad. The writing was terrible. The acting was the only good part. But it's like, everything about it was just not good.
Oh my God, it's like seasons 8 through 12 of Supernatural. And I'm being generous.
Yeah, that is pretty generous.
Damn, we're being assholes today. But that's
But you know what? Because we have something to not be assholes about.
Oh.
I remember I said at the beginning of this episode that I was going to tell a little story. Let me weave you a picture of what I was doing.
Where were you?
Where was I?
So Dean Winchester's birthday, 2023.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Dean Winchester's birthday is January 24th. The cast of the Winchesters throws a little birthday party for Dean. You see on Instagram, like, they're celebrating. And it's very cute. Whatever. That evening comes around. The Winchesters airs. I don't watch it as it's coming out. I don't have cable. Can't be bothered. But I see people are, like, freaking out about it on Twitter, and I'm like, okay,
this is very similar to our November 5th stories.
Mm-hmm. So, like, it's funny because it's like, okay, whatever. But what do I see? There's layers to this, because I'm like, whoa, I see a clip from the end of the last episode of the Winchesters, and it's John and Mary. They have just kissed for the first time. They're not for the first time, but like for the first time, like in a relationship. They are now in a relationship. They love each other. And they're doing whatever. And John looks over and he's like, hey, wait a minute. I know that guy. That's the guy who gave me the key. Like the key and like told me to come find you. And Mary looks and they pick up a picture and we see the back. And Mary goes, who the hell is this guy? It's fucking Dean Winchester. Dean Winchester is alive in the past. And I fucking predicted it. When we talked about the Winchesters, I had talked about saying, I believe I saw someone on Twitter saying it, and I was like, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? But Dean Winchester has gone back in time to change the fate of his parents, to change the course of his parents' life.
If you had the chance to change your fate, would you?
No, he literally does. But this resulted in me being like, okay, that's so crazy. Like, sitting up in bed for like hours scrolling, being like, can someone please tell me context? Please tell me context. I couldn't watch it until the next day. The next day comes, I watch it. I'm like screaming, crying, throwing up. And what's not even to mention, I thought that was going to be the big cameo, but the other 1-2 punch was the fact that the villain in that episode, from the moment he fucking walked on the screen, I recognized him, was fucking Gabriel? Or Loki, whatever. But it was fucking hilarious.
It was Gabriel in the era where he was, spoiler alert, it was the angel Gabriel in the era where he was pretending to be Loki because he was having a midlife crisis.
No, it's literally like so fucking sickening.
It was, so I watched it. Did I watch it the night of? Or
you watched it the night after, I think.
Yeah, I watched it the night after. I'm live texting Ollie. I'm like, oh my god. Because I had heard something had happened with Dean Winchester, but I did not know about Gabriel. I was like, oh! I was like, Ollie, please, you have to watch this. I think I'm gonna fucking throw up. Like, I was like, this is, and here's, like, I didn't, because at the beginning of the show, we were like, how is this not gonna be canon? Or like, what are they doing? We kept talking about like, oh, John's gonna get his memory wiped, whatever. And then I was like, we literally said, oh, Jensen Ackles is going to decanonize Supernatural. He's literally decanonizing Supernatural. He literally, I think when Jared Leto or someone else says method acting, they're just using it to be an asshole. Jensen Ackles has played this character for so long that he is method acting because he was like,
it's not even method acting. He's like, this character is me.
Yeah, he was like, so I think that Dean Winchester, his whole thing is that he fights against fate, and that's just like me, because I'm fighting against the way that they ended my fucking character by decanonizing the rest of the fucking show.
No, he literally said, you know what, guys? Fuck you. I'm doing my own thing. It's Dean Winchester's birthday, and he's back, baby. He's alive in the fucking past. Also, important to say, the picture that John and Mary have is a production still from a season of Supernatural. It's a fun fact. Like, it has been faded. It is meant to look like, oh, this is a picture that Samuel Campbell took.
Is Jared edited out?
So here's the thing. It is a production still. And people have found that same production still because they're like, this looks really familiar. It is a picture that initially is Jensen and Jared. Jared is just edited out of the image.
He got Mike Wazowski.
He literally, I was like, do Jensen and Jared have mad fucking beef? I really hope so, because that is fucking hilarious. That is so funny.
I mean, top 10 moments in Supernatural history are like November 5th, canon in the Spanish dub, Jensen and Jared fighting on Twitter at Super Tay, and then this. And all of those happened in the last 2 years.
No, it's so fucking insane. Like, it's so sickening.
Okay, and here's why it's crazy. Here's why it's crazy. We had to have a whole conversation about this from like an actual critical perspective. You may or may not know, we are also Star Wars fans. And
yeah, you may not know.
And Ollie is probably an even bigger Clone Wars enjoyer than I am. And here's the thing. So, like, we talked about on this podcast where they're like, oh, are they Star Wars prequelsing John Winchester? And then we realized, no, they're not prequelsing them. They're Clone Warsing them. In that they're taking the parts that were shitty. All of the stupid Campbell and Men of Letters lore. All the things that didn't make sense and were shitty, and they're like, we're gonna recontextualize this and make it mean something. And that's exactly what the Clone Wars did with the prequels.
It's so sickening, because I mean, the other thing too about it is that it's like, it's not even like, oh, it's, because again, with the Clone Wars, it's not an entirely apt metaphor, because the Clone Wars is like still exists within the canon. This show, we were constantly saying like, how is this gonna exist in the canon? And now we know, like, it doesn't.
No,
Like,
but it does, because alternate timelines do exist within the Supernatural canon.
That's what yes, correct. I'm not saying that I agree with your point completely. I just think that it's very interesting how, despite the fact that this is technically not the canon of the original storyline, like it is now diverged to a different timeline, I guess. Or it's just erasing that one entirely, whatever. Like, it is doing that. It is still somehow making the original more meaningful, or at least just as meaningful. Like, it's so fucked up, because I watched that episode of the Winchesters and then I said, oh boy, I can't wait to watch Supernatural. That is so fucked up. I cannot believe that is where my mind is at.
I was like, well, and the whole time we've been having all these moments, whatever, and there's been a couple moments of like, hey, you shouldn't treat your kid like a soldier, especially with Mary. And there's a moment where John Winchester says to Mary's father, who is now here, Samuel Campbell, he's like, maybe, I don't know exactly the quote, but he's like, maybe you should treat her more like your kid instead of a soldier, or something like that.
He says maybe you should, because he's back to life, and he's like, okay, I need to go do this. And Mary, like, not back to life, oh my god, he's back in the story, they found him, and then Samuel is like, I have to go do my own thing. And
literally Mary just like John.
No, Mary is like, no, don't. And he is like, I have to, goodbye. And she's upset, and he's kind of like giving her orders. He's like, you go take care of this while I take care of this. And then Mary is like upset about it, and she storms out, and John's like, you should treat her more like a daughter and less like a soldier.
And to hear those words come out of John Winchester's mouth, I was like, something has fucking shifted.
No, literally, it was like, there's no, like, the conviction with which he said it, there is no mind erasure in the world that can take away that man's conviction. I'm like, something fucking happened.
I was like, I know cycles of abuse are a thing, but like, no, he literally, I mean, and all fucking Dean Winchester had to do was be like, well, in order to fix my daddy issues, I have to fix my dad's daddy issues.
And it's working. And it's working.
Yeah, because now he did
this John. I can stand this John.
Well, and also this John, he learned hunting with Mary instead of learning hunting like alone as a fucked up little man. Like, where everyone's like, even other hunters are like, girl, what the fuck is wrong with you? Abusing his kids the whole time, whatever. Like, this John, he's learning with his slay little group. He's like sharing his feelings with fellow gay veteran Carlos. He's like, he's like having conversations about like what bravery means with Lata. He's like all these kinds of stuff, whatever. And he's like fixing his daddy issues, and his mom is like there in his life. And you're like,
yeah, huh? And he's like letting his mom into his life, and not only is she there, like he's letting her in and letting her help him and letting her like be there, which kind of seems like, based on some of the things that in the show his mother has alluded to, may not have been how he was before.
Yeah,
and probably would not be how, like, he probably wouldn't be like that.
They say he was fucked up before Vietnam.
Yeah, I get, like, Mary literally fixed him, and it wasn't even on purpose. It was just like knowing her fixed him, and Carlos and Lata, of course.
Yeah, I think knowing Carlos fixed him.
Yeah, he said maybe my ideas of masculinity aren't what I thought they were.
No, it's literally like, and it's crazy because now you're like, also, I remember when the second to last episode of Supernatural aired, and it really popped off. Like, it really popped off. They were like, we're killing God. Like, they really, and they had a lot to say about fate and whatever. And I was like, they should have just ended the show here. That popped off. And then the drop off from Destiel to that, to then the fucking ending, that was when it made it more devastating. And I remember, this is the same feeling I had watching that second to last episode, being like, okay, the things that we have to say about, like, if you had the chance to change your fate, would you? And like what fate means, because in this second episode that aired this week, it was all about John Winchester and fate.
Yeah, and John like actively subverting fate. It's like he does the exact same bullshit that Dean Winchester would do. It's so like
Dean Winchester has done.
No, also you can tell so much how Jensen wrote this with Dean in mind and not with Sam in mind.
Well, I will say, like, actor though he has all these very Sam mannerisms.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the writing and like the story beats and like the overarching themes, I'm like, they do relate to Sam, but I'm like, This is so clearly written for the Dean girlies.
Oh, but also, it's funny because Mary has a dead sister.
So true.
So
It's a dead cousin.
Oh, I'm sorry. A
Who's
dead
like
cousin.
a sister.
I'm sorry. That's how he feels about Sam. No, I'm kidding. It's just
That's how Jensen feels about Sam.
okay, and here's the thing. That wasn't even the only part. That wasn't the only part. There's so much to unpack. The other piece is that makes me feel I'm honking my clown nose and I'm again putting on my clown shoes. Is that, all the girlies, we have one question. Because here's the problem. Much like how Destiel said, the impossible is possible. When they put Gabriel in the Winchesters, they opened up fucking Pandora's box.
No, literally. And here's the thing. With Gabriel showing up, and also in that same episode, the realization that this is not like the quote unquote canon timeline, like this is a different thing. My whole thing in this show was like, they can't possibly have a lot of these like legacy characters that we really like, a lot of these supernatural characters that we really like, because it wouldn't make sense in canon for this character to know John and Mary in the past. But now I'm like, this is not canon. Like anyone, it's free game. Anyone could be here. Bobby could be here. Bobby could be here.
Bobby could have already been there. Well, no, because we said before he didn't meet Bobby until after Mary dies. No,
exactly.
No,
Bobby could be there. Freaking Crowley could be there. Like literally any bitch could be there.
No, and this is the crazy part. So of course, and then the showrunner in an interview is like, yeah, we have a couple more big characters, especially one in episode 12, but then some more. And these are all people who like didn't get their due, because we know Roadhouse people are going to be there, because in the last episode of Supernatural, they've revealed that in the last episode, because of COVID, really only Bobby was there. Castiel, Misha was not there. Ellen and Joe were supposed to be there. Like a ton of people were supposed to be there. The show was supposed to end with them in the Roadhouse in heaven as the real band Kansas plays Carry On Wayward Son. Okay, but that doesn't happen because COVID. And all of these actors said, like, I would have loved to have been there, whatever. And Jensen is going to get their asses in here. He is. Mm-hmm. So, I'm thinking Bobby, I'm thinking Ellen, I'm thinking whatever. But then the clown shoes are on. Because at first, I am like fucking Charlie Day with the red string right now. Because if you've seen me on TikTok, they're like, there's going to be a really big character in episode 12, I believe. And then people have mentioned, I'm going to lay it out. People have mentioned Dean Winchester has traveled into the past, and both of them have traveled into the past before and interacted with his own parents before. This is a thing that has occurred before. I do believe that Jensen went, what if we made that into a whole show? Which is very funny because he's the one who convinces his own father to buy the car. And in the second episode that aired, I think yesterday, you see John Winchester being like, nice car. And you're like, but this is a separate timeline. So basically, the first time that he
because I've just realized that Dean Winchester traveled back in time with the Impala.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That was a different episode, wasn't it?
No, we saw him back. We saw him in the first episode with the car, but now because there's the picture that Samuel Campbell allegedly took of Dean Winchester is Dean standing outside the Impala.
Unless he went to just go buy a random Impala.
That is fucking hilarious. He's like, I need to find my baby, but
is it not out yet? I don't know what year we're in.
The Impala. The Impala would not have been.
Anyways. So in that first episode, I can't remember the fuck it's called. It is in season 4, and it is 2 episodes after Castiel is introduced. The first time that Dean ever time travels and meets his parents in the past is because of the one and only Castiel. And not only that, he is having nightmares of hell, which he has just been dragged back from.
Point of correction. The Impala would have been out. It was 1967, and this show takes place in the 70s. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I wasn't sure. I don't understand how cars work. So, no, that's not true. And also, we see in the narration in the first episode, we see Dean, he's on a road trip and he's driving the car. So what does it all mean? I've seen theories that Jack turned him into an angel. A lot of things. However, the first time we ever see him time travel is because of Castiel. He is having nightmares of hell, and Castiel decides, I can't remember the plot of the episode, to be honest, but Castiel decides, the way I'm going to help this man get over his trauma from hell is by sending him into the past. And at first, Dean doesn't think it's real. And then he's like, oh shit, it's real, butterfly effect, fuck. After he, like, flirted with his own mom. It's very
gross.
Bad. It's not good.
What's also so gross is Dean, in that episode of Supernatural, sees his mom in the past and is like, she's kind of a babe. And then in this episode, Mary is looking at of the Winchesters, Mary is looking at a picture of Dean and she goes, oh, he's not bad looking. Girl, you're both so fucked up.
Freud is kicking our ass right now.
Because for Mary, I'm like, at least for Mary, she does not know that that's her son from the future. Dean knew that was his mom in the past. That was more fucked up.
Dean, girl, what the fuck? You know what? I need to go. Sentence that's horrible. Also, I need to go on the Supernatural wiki because I'm actually gonna fucking look it up. Of course, time travel is under the article chronokinesis. Now, this is where I went down the rabbit hole. If you look at time travel, the article on the first thing that comes up is a quote from that episode from Castiel saying, "Time is fluid, Dean. It's not easy, but we can bend it on occasion." Who is the person who inspires Dean to think about time travel and to change your fate? And then there's more. I'm not done presenting my case. Now, of course, honk clown knows because as we know. And here's the other piece. Of course, I went, maybe this is how Jensen decanonizes Supernatural. But honestly, I'll allow it. I'll allow it to be homophobic at this point. But I'm be putting in my clown nose because someone found a tweet from 2021 of when this show was announced. And Misha Collins quote tweeted it and was like, wouldn't it be fun if we had a little time traveling angel in a trench coat in it? Before we knew anything about time travel. I was like, what's going?
It's so sick. It's so sick and twisted. My worry is that I'm going to say something. It's going to sound so fucked up. My worry is that they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like there's like this legacy character who's going to show up and it's going to be fucking Sam. I'm not a Sam hater. I just don't want Jared to win.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So this is important for when we discuss this. When Dean is sent back to 1973. Wait, when does this take place?
This takes place in the 1970s. I'm not entirely sure what year.
Shit. Dean is sent back to 1973. In 2008, Castiel transports Dean back into the year 1973, telling Dean
now to see when it takes place.
Telling Dean only that he has to stop it. Now, why does he do this when he awakens him from a nightmare? Who the fuck knows? But also, why are you as a man? That whole episode also has like the first intimate conversation between Castiel and Dean, where he talks about like fate and his parents.
The Winchesters is set in 1972.
I'm gonna fucking throw up. Do you see how crazy? Like, we are usually so hateful on this podcast, but here's the thing.
But we've been willing to admit that we have liked the Winchesters. This is like, this really did like make me rethink so much. Like, it made me like excited. It gave me emotions. I'm like, I have not cared this much about Supernatural since like 2014. It's really sickening.
It's so bad.
But I was at like peak mania.
No, it's so okay. So in this episode, oh fuck, I forgot. Dean meets young versions of his parents, John and Mary, and infiltrates the Campbell family.
Right, yeah. He was like
1973.
Hanging out with the fucking Campbells.
And then at the beginning of this episode of the Winchesters, somebody says, oh, the first domino has been knocked down. The first domino of what? To change Supernatural. So,
Dean is actively trying to create a world where they were never born. Like, he was like Back to the Future. He saw Back to the Future and said, that's actually a good idea, and I'm gonna do what Marty did, except I'm gonna do it first and better.
Well, but here's also the other thing, is that in that episode, he infiltrates the Campbell family, learns the demon Azazel is after Mary, that he has been that whole time.
Dean, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Dean presumes he is there to alter his family's tragic future, but the past cannot be changed. After Azazel kills Mary's parents, and John... Oh my god, I forgot.
I completely forgot the whole Azazel thing. Oh, fuck.
I After Azazel kills Mary's parents and John, Mary grants the demon permission to enter her home in 10 years in exchange for John's resurrection. I literally forgot about that.
Oh my god. How many times has John Winchester died? Jesus Christ.
Wait, no. When Castiel returns Dean to 2008, he tells Dean that the past cannot be changed, but that Dean now knows all that the angels know about Azazel's plans. He then tells Dean that Sam is heading down a dangerous path, saying Dean has to stop it or the angels will. So this is him going, Castiel, I don't give a fuck what you say.
I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna
go kill Azazel. Wait, and here's the thing. Oh my god,
wait. Okay. No, because
we're so crazy.
No, because Azazel only showing up. No, because the way I'm like, I refuse to talk about the Akrita because I'm like, whatever the fuck, I don't care. But the idea of them being tied to Azazel somehow.
No, wait. Here's the thing. So Samuel Campbell at one point is talking about how he was trying to find something that would like kill all the monsters, take them all off the board somehow. And I know that like there's also this piece of Dean who's like, and what if we could, because the first intimate conversation that he ever has with Castiel is like, where Castiel's like, well, if you guys were never born, like think about all the people who would have died that you guys saved. And he's like, would that be worth it? They have this whole conversation. So then for Dean to go back into the past and be like, I'm actually going to pre-kill all the monsters so that my family can have a happy life. And including Azazel. And also one of the big like object in this is this like box that traps things. He's gonna trap Azazel in the box.
Oh my fucking...
What if that's the character in episode 12?
Because if Azazel shows up, if someone turns around with those yellow-ass eyes, I will, like, I think I might actually, like, die. Because here's the shocking thing, that would be, like, good writing. And that is, like, not something that I trust the Supernatural team with. And I'm like, oh, fuck, the Winchesters is actually good? Oh my god.
Here's the thing. I would excuse them not having Castiel for that. That would be my Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian.
That would be like Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian if the writing continued to be good after.
No, it's more like Dean Winchester showing up as Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian, and then them mentioning Thrawn would be like somebody turning around with those fucking yellow eyes. I'd be like, no, like I would fucking, for those who are still listening who may not know what's going on, when we've talked about the yellow-eyed demon, we have not gotten to the part in Supernatural yet where they say he has a name. He is a demon named Azazel, who has been after Mary Winchester this whole time.
Yeah, he has mad beef with a bitch named Mary.
Yeah, I don't know why he has mad beef with her, but like that's the key.
Because also, because what's so fucked up too is I'm like, just like, what would be so fucked up is that if this is a big point to Dean, that it's like, you know what, you can try to change your fate, but you can't really change it, because like they're fucking John's still dying for some reason, and Azazel's still showing up despite Dean like trying to stop it and still promising that he can come in 10 years. And it's like, John may have this extra knowledge, but it leads them down the same path anyway.
Oh, see, that would be really hateful, because then that means that Dean has the same ending and Jensen doesn't want that. No,
that is true. Jensen will do something.
Jensen's Princess Diana revenge dress. That is...
I don't know if that's quite what the revenge dress was, but I appreciate the reference. For bringing it back around. No, but yeah.
Here's the other piece, because I'm not done with my Castiel thing. There have been all these little hints to Castiel. Another piece is that vampires play a very, very important part in this second story, the one that just aired this week, about changing your fate and all this kind of stuff.
That they were like also the villain in the episode where
Dean dies with the rusty nail. No, okay.
Okay, I have to say something really quick. Interjection. Drake Roger, who plays John Winchester, tweeting about being like, wow, I really hope there's there's vampires in this episode of the Winchesters. I really hope there's no like rusty nail there.
He tweeted what?
Oh, wait, hold on. I need to find this tweet because it's really funny.
I fear that it's just the entire cast of the Winchesters being like, damn, that shit was stupid. Drake
Roger is, like, an actual Supernatural fan. Like, he also has, like, 3,000 followers on Twitter. He says, he tweeted, after the last episode of the Winchesters, which was about vampires and John subverting his fate. And, like, the point of that episode was that it was, like, in the beginning, John got, like, a vision that he was gonna die, be killed by vampires. And then, like, in the end, like, he kind of does, but, like, out of context, like, in context, he doesn't. Like, he ends up being fine, but he kind of, like, faked his death, but not really. But Drake Roger tweeted at the end of that episode, "At least there's no rusty pole sticking out of the wall. Am I right? At Jensen Ackles." Period.
Jensen Ackles has been talking about this for 2 years.
He said, "Too soon?" ? And also the fact that he spelled too soon, but it's T-O, so it's like the wrong two.
That's
too
so
soon.
Powerful.
No, I'm obsessed with him.
So in the promo for next week's episode, we have some of the members of the Akrita. They're like the villains in the Winchesters, looking at the picture of Dean in the past, being like that the queen believes he's a hunter himself and needs to be eliminated. So yeah, also, Dean might get his ass got in the past.
That would be fucking hilarious. Dean dies in the past again. He cannot escape his fate.
Journey to the past. Also, so then people have talked about some of the parallels. One of the big parallels was in the mid-season finale when Mary and John kiss for the first time. They're like trapped in a room as the Akrita are about to come in, and they're like, "I guess this is it, girl." And everyone's like, "This is exactly like the scene where Castiel confessed to John." It is to John.
Whoa, Freudian there.
I want to kill myself.
Yeah, where's my jazz fanfiction at?
Okay,
here's
can you look on AO3?
No, I can't. Also, no, because here's what's also so fucked up that I've just had the thought of. The idea of Cass showing up, but in a different vessel. Like, he shows up, like, in the past, and it's just him in the past, and he's in a different vessel, and he's in a woman vessel, and Dean from the future meets him, and it's like, oh my god, Cass, and then they have a budding romance, but it's only because Cass is in a female vessel.
You know what? I'd take it. The sad part is that I would fucking take it.
And I'd eat it up, is the problem.
Eat it up. Like, I really, if Jensen Ackles made Destiel canon again, even more homophobic, I'd take it. That's the problem.
Guys, is this coherent? Is this coherent to anyone?
No, here's the thing. It is. Okay, wait. So we obviously have that parallel. And then we have this we have this, somebody said that Dean on the road in episode 1 of the Winchesters, he is in his purgatory outfit. Another Castiel reference. Then Lata in the bunker in this episode is like, oh, maybe we need a bunker cat. That is literally something that Castiel says, one of his adorable little lines when they have the bunker.
You said that with one of his adorable little lines. You said that with such a hatred.
And also, there is a direct narrative parallel in this week's episode between, and there have been several, between John and Mary. And Mary's the one who is very Dean-coded here, where she's like, there's always another way. And of course, Dean has always been like, there's always another way. And basically, in this latest episode of the Winchesters, Dean's like, oh, well, we can avert this fate thing happening. Mom, just kill me and then restart my heart.
John, not Dean. John is like that. Okay, so also, what's so fucked up, girl, the fact that John is like, Mom, if you just electrocute me and my heart stops, then we can stop this vampire, and then you guys can just resuscitate me.
And you're like, what you are the dumbest bitch alive.
Yeah, I'm like, this plan is almost as stupid as pretending to rob a museum and getting yourself arrested to stop a ghost.
Like,
no, it was so stupid. The fact that he lived through that, I'm shocked. Winchester privilege, truly.
No, literally, it was. Yeah, so people on Tumblr were like, the amulet says that John gets killed by a vampire. The Supernatural writers say Dean gets killed by a vampire. They remember that you can change your fate. It's literally, the meta of this show is so
much.
It's so, and then, just like as a cherry on the sundae here. Oh, also the many scenes of, we're gonna figure this out, whatever, with Mary and John compared to Dean and Castiel in Purgatory.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. You're so right. Oh my god. See. So are you telling me that Carlos and Lata are like their Benny?
The Benny-ification of Carlos?
Oh, also fun fact, Carlos does get to kiss a man in like this episode. The fact that we're so floored by everything else that we have not even mentioned the fact that Carlos is like canonically having a romance with another man.
And listen, we've had canonically gay characters before. They just have had a really shit-ass ending. But in this situation, like Carlos and Lata, they are main characters. And here's the thing, this is a prequel, so if any of them die, I expected them to die. It's different than like we're just killing bitches. For
It's also
sure.
a matter of like if they are to die, how would it happen?
Yeah, that
like,
too, because they have very heinous deaths.
Yeah, like I don't want to talk about Charlie because that still makes my blood boil.
Yeah, so in all of this, in the middle of all of this, they have Carlo. They were like, what if we had our canonically bisexual male character, Carlos, kiss another man right after John and Mary kiss? And you're like, in the 70s? It's equality. Yeah, I mean, it's not like gay people didn't exist in this. Why did I say that?
According to Claudia, gay people did not exist in the 70s.
In the Supernatural universe, the fact that there's more diversity in the 70s than there are in the early 2000s, it's much to think about. But
yeah, no, it's like we're getting all of these really interesting stories, and there's still so much that's like unresolved with Lata and like her family, and like there's all this.
What's up with that?
No, literally, I think about that all the fucking time. Like when she took that phone call in one of the earlier episodes and was like, "I wasn't talking to anyone, girl. What? Like
what's happening? Oh,
there's so much happening, and I'm still like."
The best moment though is Carlos's literal sleigh.
Where... Oh yeah, we completely forgot. We're so all over the place. There's a part in this episode where a bunch of vampires start coming at them, and Lata soaks. Carlos flips over. Lata soaks his hair with holy water, and he starts like doing freaking flash dance, like whipping his hair around and spraying the vampires with holy water. He's fighting. He's got a stake in his hand. He's flipping his hair, whatever. He's like killing all them. And every time he flips his head, one of them gets hit with like the holy water. It's quite possibly the biggest sleigh in the entire Supernatural canon. And no, I mean that literally. I was like, Dean Winchester fucking wishes he was Carlos. I know, if Dean had seen that, I do fear that he might have realized he was gayer a little quicker. Yeah, guys, Carlos is like the best character. He is. And then somebody on Tumblr was like, the funniest thing would be if they never acknowledge Sam, or if Sam shows up and he's played by someone who's not Jared Padalecki. No, okay, that is what I've been saying, is like, I think it would be fucking hilarious, and this is my dream for the Winchesters, is if like they just the fact that you just said this is my dream for the Winchesters, that's how dark it's become. Yeah, this is my realistic dream for the Winchesters, is that they just literally never mention Sam. Like, he just never comes up. Like, they kind of skirt around him, and Dean's like, yeah, well, you know, there's someone else I'm fighting for, but anyway, it's not important. And like, that's the extent of which they talk about Sam. It's so... I guess the point of this story, not only is the Winchesters like a pretty decent, like a pretty good show, it's also like fucked me up about Supernatural in such a sickening way. No, like, because I've had genuine emotions about... Oh, also, I forgot, the actor who plays Sam, he did post in his Instagram story, someone was like, is John and Carlos the superior ship? You said the actor who plays Sam just now. The actor who plays John, Drake Roger. He posted it. Someone asked him in his Instagram story, is John and Carlos the superior ship? And he said yes. No, even the cast of this show is better than the cast of Supernatural. I was like, no, if you let Drake Roger produce the Winchesters, we would have Misha Collins coming in and out of the closet. No, when is a cast member from the Winchesters gonna come in and out of the closet? I can't take it anymore. Oh my god. So would we like to wrap it up a little, say our final thoughts on where we're at with the Winchesters? All I'm saying is, do I expect Castiel to show up? No. Is there a lot of proof that he will? Yes. And this is the same way I felt about Destiel. Do I expect Destiel to happen? Absolutely not. Is there a lot of proof? Yes. And then I ended up being right. I didn't even think I was going to be right. So in this case, it might be that again, or I might be clowned on. And you know what? It was an honor to be clowned on by your fanfiction, sir. Like, it's because it's a thing. It's like, I have not felt the feeling of even like the anticipation of knowing I might be clowned on for so long. Like, I've not had that emotion for so long. It's so exciting. I feel like I'm 15 years old again. It's so dark. Like, it's so...
And the way, like, we keep talking to each other about it, it's like, I
Mhm.
was like, I woke up the next day, like, this week, and I was like, I have to watch the Winchesters. There's something deeply wrong with me.
No, it's like we're like a feedback loop of just like an absolutely unexplainable emotion.
And if you haven't experienced this, for those of you who may be for those of you who may be listening to this who, like, may not understand these emotions, let me compare them to some other fandom events that may be helpful. Um, do you know the feeling that many people have described of when you watched Yuri on Ice week to week and then found out that it was actually gay at the end and what that feeling felt like? It's kind of like that. The entire Destiel thing was kind of like that. It was just the anime version of that.
Yeah.
Um,
It was like that, except I would argue that because the baiting had been happening for what, like 14, 15 years,
yeah.
it was like that. But
Well,
imagine that bottled up over the course of not
but
15,
that's
like 10
for
years.
Yuri on Ice. It was kind of similar because it has been baiting like that in every sports anime ever.
That is true.
So it's decades at this point. It's
That's
decades.
true. Well, yeah. I guess the thing is, we both just feel so sickened and strange
Jensen
and
Ackles was like,
excited. It's weird to feel excited about something again. It's weird to have emotions again.
no, literally. I was like, you know what? This is. I mean, I said this on TikTok, but on this podcast, we say every week, do not watch Supernatural. And the unfortunate addendum that we have to add to that is, do not watch Supernatural, but do watch the Winchesters.
Yeah, no, that's the sickening part is I'm like, yeah, I keep saying sickening. It's because I'm like, it's like sickening in like the British way where it's like sickening means cool, but also sickening in the American way where it's like I feel sick. And I'm feeling both of those.
Yeah, I feel like ill inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going on Tumblr looking for like John and Mary versus Dean and Castiel comparison gift sets. Like, it's so dark in these streets.
No, I feel yeah. It's like it's really like I feel like if I was like if this had happened like 10 years ago, I would be like printing out a picture of Carlos and like John and Mary and Lata to like put on the front of my binder for school.
This is
Like it's sickening.
we can't keep saying it's sickening. We can't.
I know, but that's the only emotion that that's the only word that evokes what I'm actually feeling.
Oh, I just saw a comparison gift sort of in this episode when Mary's like, "No, John, please don't die on me," and then when Dean is like shaking Castiel and being like, "Please, please, you have to live." Anyways, thanks for listening. For more cursed supernatural content, batshit crazy Winchesters TikToks, you can follow us on social media at Mystery Spotcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And since Twitter is dying, we also now have an official Tumblr at Mystery Spotcast as well, where I am reblogging all of those gift sets. You can also ask us cursed supernatural questions or legitimate questions about the Winchesters at this point in our TikTok Q&A, our Tumblr Ask Box, or by emailing us at themysteryspotcast@gmail.com. If you enjoyed listening to us suffer or have fun this time around, Jesus, please rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, Overcast, whatever podcast app you use that it has rating and reviewing. Go do it. It really helps people discover our show. And if you could also tell one friend, like an MLM. If you want to hear more from us, we're also two of the co-hosts of RuPaul's Pod Race, a queer Star Wars podcast. See you 2 Tuesdays from now for more slaying people, queer baiting things, the supernatural business.